Alrighty, so I wanted to come on here and talk about the Deebo Samuel situation once again, because I made a video yesterday about the best trade offer that the 49ers have reportedly gotten for Deebo Samuel, which is rumored to be not that good of compensation. If you guys haven't watched my last video, definitely go check that out. I kind of broke down the rumor, gave my 2 cents on that and whatnot. But I wanted to come on here and really dive in to the Deebo situation and give my 2 cents on if I think they should trade him or release him, because I think if they don't trade him, a release is very likely. I think especially where the situation's kind of gone. I mean, it really does seem like a divorce is inevitable for the Niners and Deebo. Um, I think everything points to him playing his last season in San Francisco, or did play his last season in San Francisco last year. So, obviously, at the end of the year, he requests the trade during his exit meeting with coaches. Um, and, the news dropped about him requesting a trade following a report that mentioned that the 49ers would be shopping Deebo during the offseason. So, the report comes out that they're shopping him and will explore trading him. And then a couple hours later, maybe an hour later at most, the report comes out that Deebo actually requested a trade during his player exit meeting. And that's why the 49ers were kind of exploring trading him. So, number one, I think the 49ers, all in all, like before the trade request, I think they were pretty much set that they were likely going to be moving on from him, or at least exploring a trade, whether he wanted a trade or not. I think that's kind of what it felt like. That was kind of the vibe I got. I could be completely wrong. They may have really wanted to keep him um, in the end, after the season. John Lynch did make a comment after the season that, the 49ers are not in the business of letting good players go. And not even a couple months later, they're shopping Deebo Samuel, who's been one of their better players over the last couple years. Not last year, but a couple seasons before that. Um, so in my last video, I kind of broke down the cap hits when it came to trading him opposed to releasing him. Now, I mentioned in the video, trading Deebo Samuel would mean that the 49ers would take on a $30+ million dead cap hit for 2025 for this upcoming season. Then I mentioned releasing Deebo Samuel would drop that cap hit for 2025 from $30+ million to a little over $10 million, which is true. However, in the end, no matter if the 49ers trade Deebo or release Deebo, all in all, and in the end, they will still be taking on a $30 million cap hit. And it's because if you release Deebo this year, your cap hit for 2025 is $10 million, a little over $10 million. Over the next couple years, it would be spread out over the next couple years to where it would be a $30 million cap hit. So they would take on a $10 million cap hit this year and then a $20 million cap hit next year if they release Deebo. So in the end, the cap hit really doesn't change. I mean, if you release him, you're spreading that cap hit out over the next 2 years. Now, if you trade him, you're taking all that $30 million cap hit this year. So really the only difference is it's going to be spread out over the next couple years if you release him opposed to trading him. Hopefully that makes sense, because I've only been talking about the cap hits this year, and I mentioned I would prefer the 49ers to release Deebo. I think that's the most likely outcome of this situation. But I didn't touch on what the cap hit would be following the 2025 season. Because again, if you release him, $10 million cap hit this year, but it's a $20 million cap hit in 2026. So either way, you're still taking on a $30 million cap hit. It's just getting spread it out over the next 2 years. So that brings me then to the question, and I know I've mentioned this in the past couple of videos, but I really wanted to kind of make a video solely on this subject. Do I think the 49ers should trade him or release him? to me, I think I'm still saying release him over trading him. I get that no matter what, you're still taking on a $30 million cap hit total. It's just spread out over the next couple of years. However, I would prefer to take a less of a cap hit this year and really try to go all in this year to win the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is in San Francisco. The 49ers, if they get to the Super Bowl, are playing at home. What better year would it be than to win it in 2025, finally get over the hump and do it in Santa Clara at Levi's? That's just my personal opinion. Now, again, I completely understand why there are people out there that would prefer the 49ers to trade him because they want something in return for Deebo. However, I don't think the 49ers are going to get more than a 5th-round pick for Deebo. I just don't think his value his value is at an all-time low right now, and I don't think it's worth trading Deebo Samuel for a 5th-round pick, and taking on a $30 million cap hit this year when you could just take on a $10 million cap hit this year by releasing him and then worry about the $20 million cap hit in 2026. I think the 49ers really need to reload very swiftly and quickly this offseason via the draft and via free agency. And taking on a $30 million cap hit this season, it's not going to help the 49ers really reload as much as I would like them to. So I would still say I think the most likely outcome and the most logical outcome for Deebo Samuel is for him to be released rather than for him to be traded. I'm like, if we're talking a 3rd-round pick or a 4th-round pick or something like that, I think I would probably maybe lean more towards trading Deebo opposed to releasing him. However, I don't like the compensation that the 49ers are likely to get in a trade. And I think that's why I lean more towards releasing him, because I would rather take on a $10 million cap hit this year and a $20 million cap hit next year. But it gives us a really good chance to not take on nearly as big as a cap hit and really try to reload this offseason, revamp this defensive line, revamp this offensive line, have a good draft, and figure out how the hell we're going to get back to the Super Bowl next year and win it this time. So that would be my 2 cents on that situation. Again, I know in recent videos I've only kind of talked about what the cap hit would be for this year if he's released, but just note that the 49ers, all in all, will still be taking on a $30 million total cap hit, no matter if they trade him or release him. The only difference is by releasing him, that cap hit spread out over the next 2 years. So $10 million for 2025 and $20 million for 2026. I hope that makes sense for the viewers out there. But yeah, my 2 cents on this would be to still release him, just because in the end, it's still a $30 million cap hit. I just don't think the 49ers are going to get what they're going to want for Deebo. I don't think they're going to get a fair enough deal for Deebo. His value's at an all-time low. And give me a much less of a cap hit going into 2025 than a monstrous cap hit and only be rewarded a 5th-round pick at best. So if we're talking a 4th or a 3rd-round pick, give me the $30 million cap hit this year, and let's move on. But in my opinion, I just find it very hard to believe that Deebo goes for like a 3rd-round pick. 4th-round pick even, it would be pretty surprising to me. But if you can get that, by all means, pull the trigger, but just don't think that the 49ers are going to get a compensation and a value that they're going to want for Deebo. And I could be wrong, because there have been several teams that have expressed interest in trading for Deebo. However, for the 49ers' sake, that could potentially help them out, because teams could then get into a bidding war. And I made a video on this a couple of days ago, but if Deebo is, if teams start, if there's several teams out there, which is being reported, that are in on a Deebo Samuel trade, I think that would bolster the potential value for Deebo Samuel in a trade, because then teams would get into this bidding war and that price tag may rise a little bit. And that would honestly work out in the 49ers' favor in the end. So that would be my 2 cents. I'm still saying release Deebo Samuel. I think it makes the most sense for both parties. I think that's probably what's going to be most likely to happen. But no matter what, the common denominator here is that the 49ers and Deebo are probably at a 95% chance that this is a divorce between both parties. I think the end is officially here. And I think it truly is probably the best time to kind of move on for both parties. And again, I think it's the inevitable. So let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. Would you guys take on a 5th round pick for Deebo and get a $30 million cap hit this year? Or would you, release him and spread out that $30 million cap hit, take only $10 million cap hit this year, not take nearly as big as a cap hit and really try to revamp this roster this season and be big spenders and aggressive in free agency and in the draft? So let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. As always, go Niners. I'll see you guys in the next one.